Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Kim, and I hope you're having a fabulous day today. If you are interested in true crime stories like I am, I hope that you would consider hitting that subscribe button. But either way, thanks for being here. And as I always say, if you see something, say something. I am back in my home in Los Angeles. Let me tell you, my bed has never felt better. I am ready to work and get some great stories out for you guys. So make sure you hit that bell notification. Today we're going to be talking about Anthony Avalos. I covered the Gabriel Fernandez case a while back. I'll link that below if you missed that one. And in that video, I asked if you guys wanted to hear about this one, and you guys seem to be interested, so here we are. This is perfect timing because this will go to trial after 5 long years in September 2022. Let's remember and talk about Anthony. Warning, today we're going to be talking about another very crimey child case. If you are sensitive to said topic, I will see you in the next one. So I have some numbers for you. The number 13, how many times someone saw something and said something. The number 12, how many caseworkers were assigned to the family over 3 years that allegedly did nothing. The number 18 and a half, the number of hours Anthony lived in the ICU before he lost his fight. The number 5, how many days Anthony was tortured before he died. And last but not least, number 1, the number of times it would have taken DCFS to save Anthony's life. I'm afraid that some of the story is going to be very closely mirroring Gabriel Fernandez case. There are going to be many times when Gabriel will show up in this story. Something to keep in mind is Gabriel died on May 24, 2013. So as you listen, remember by the time Anthony gets hurt, Gabriel had already passed. So this case happened after Gabriel. Anthony Nolan Avalos was born on May 4, 2008 in Los Angeles, California to his mom, Heather Barron, and his dad, Victor Avalos. His parents were still teenagers when he was born. His dad loved him dearly, but unfortunately he had to go back to Mexico almost immediately after Anthony was born. He did see him occasionally through video chats, and he tried to stay in touch with him as much as he could. Anthony had a huge extended family, though. He had aunts and uncles and tons of cousins on both sides, mom and dad's, that he saw all the time when he was a baby, and honestly, they spoiled him. They really loved him. When it was just Anthony and mom, she raised him working part-time at a Subway and received state benefits. In February of 2013, Anthony reported that his maternal grandfather had sexually assaulted him. His mom took him for treatment. DCFS was made aware of this allegation and was able to substantiate the abuse. They offered counseling to Anthony, but Heather said that she would take him to counseling on her own. They relied on Heather to do that. But more importantly, they relied on Heather to keep Anthony safe and away from her father. I'm going to make your blood boil right out of the jump by telling you that did not happen because her father was still able to babysit Anthony. So now and even later when Heather has other kids, she and her boyfriend would continue to allow her father to babysit. How do you sleep at night? DCFS considered their involvement done. In May of 2014, a call was made to DCFS hotline, and the caller said that Heather, who had 4 children now, was hitting her children with hoses and belts, locking them in their rooms for hours. Given what we learn later, my guess is that either a family member or someone who knows the children very well, because this is exactly what was happening to them. And this is all mom, Heather, No boyfriend on the scene yet. At least not one living with her or that stuck around. DCFS investigated and said an allegation of neglect but not abuse was substantiated. In the Gabriel Fernandez case, the words neglect but not abuse were all over the case. I don't know if DCFS has to do less work that way. Maybe it's a different set of services they provide. If someone knows something, please let me know in the comments. So mom agreed the opening of a voluntary case. She voluntarily agreed, okay? For those keeping track, at this point, Heather is 24. She has 4 children. And oh, by the way, she has one more on the way. But nothing happened. Not one thing. In June of 2014, a psychologist evaluated Heather and found she at the time believes that her capacity to provide suitable care for her children is severely limited by her poor parenting skills, poor judgment, and denial of the lack of awareness of her mental health issues. This evaluator recommended a boatload of services for Heather, but remember, this is a voluntary case, so even though it's under DCFS, Heather doesn't have to do anything. She refused all of them. She was still signed up for services provided by Children's Center of Antelope Valley. Stick a pin here, Children's Center will be an important entity in little Anthony's life. They will fight so heroically for him. As the home visits got underway, the progress reports were not encouraging. Quote, mom overwhelmed. Mom loses her patience. Mom hits her kids. Mom doesn't like her kids. Unquote. Then on October 9, 2014, a counselor from the Children's Center, Wendy Wright, our first hero, called the DCFS hotline, and she said she had tried to talk to the caseworker, Mark Millman, but, quote, he blew me off. Unquote. This is a licensed practical counselor who is assigned to this family. She reported mom had recently given birth to her 5th child and was very aggressive and angry with her children, showed no nurturing to her children, even the newborn. She also reported that she saw mom, quote, yanking one child across the room by the arm, yanking her daughter's hair while brushing it, unquote. Also, quote, calling the children names like punk and bitch, unquote. This was in front of the counselor. What was she doing when the counselor wasn't around? The social worker assigned to investigate these new allegations was not concerned. He observed that mom and her children were, quote, interacting positively and that mom and children had secure attachment as seen by their interaction, unquote. Is this guy for real? He just clicked a drop-down menu in his computer, I guess, because also in the caseworker's notes, mom admitted to the caseworker that she hit her children with a belt and used hot sauce to punish them for talking back. That did not seem to bother him. Millman reported no further concerns. Quote, mom does cuss and yell, but she's doing her best. Well, hell, if she's doing her best, then it's okay, right? When Millman puts this in the computer, it computes in an assessment like it's supposed to, and it tells Millman that the children are at high, H-I-G-H, high risk of abuse and neglect, and it recommends a promotion to a court case. So the system is freaking paying attention, but Millman overrode the system, saying the children were already involved in a voluntary case and getting services. As a gentle reminder, rock stars, those services she is refusing. They are the freaking counselor of one service who made the call, Millman. Despite mom's own admission of violence to the kids, he closed the referral as inconclusive for physical abuse, emotional abuse, and general neglect. Inconclusive. Isn't it their job to prove or disprove abuse? But okay, on November 5th, 2014, another counselor from Children's Center, Crystal Gee, called the hotline saying she overheard a child say, "She's bad because she whips our ass." The counselor said mom gets frustrated easy. In front of the counselor, she said, "Don't think because she's here, I won't whip your ass." They didn't even investigate, didn't call this counselor that works as a sister program. They did nothing. The referral was evaluated out with no explanation. That's code for it's just closed. December 4th, 2014, the voluntary case was closed. So the notes say, mom has been compliant with services and receptive to outside resources. Although the family received 2 new referrals, these allegations were unfounded or inconclusive. Mom has agreed to continue counseling for the kids with a new agency. Perhaps one that won't call the hotline? Perhaps. This is our next bad guy, I'm afraid. Now enters Hathaway Sycamore's Child and Family Services. So they are the new counselors. This same outfit that I'm using this term loosely provided services to Gabriel Fernandez as well. Oh, and Anthony is assigned to a counselor named Barbara Dixon, also Gabriel's counselor, and she likes to counsel the boys to, quote, listen to their mother and do their homework. Is she for real? These kids are being beaten and starved, and she wants them to focus on their freaking homework? Anthony's mom got a new boyfriend, Kareem Leva. Anthony's uncle, David Barron, actually met Kareem first at Santa Clara shipping facility where they both worked. He introduced Kareem to Heather because back then he thought he was a good guy. I think we can all say that we have a friend or a neighbor that when we met someone, they were like great for like the first 3 or 4 years. And then for whatever reason, it turns into a nightmare. That is exactly what happened with Kareem. Kareem then still is a MS-13. MS-13 is an international criminal gang that was started in Los Angeles in the 70s and 80s. Unlike other gangs, MS-13 is defined by its cruelty. Where other gangs might carry guns or knives, they prefer machetes. So this is the real Kareem. That is the man that Heather fell in love with and not only brought into her life of her now 7 children, but she got pregnant with his child as well. Her uncle David would later say that early on, Heather would acknowledge that Kareem was violent and not good to have around her kids. So she would keep him away for a couple of months, but David noticed she always took him back. Within months of Kareem living with them, the father of Anthony's 2-year-old brother, so they have different fathers, and so Anthony's brother, who is 2, his father reported to the police that Kareem was abusing his son. No DCF investigation. Instead, they opened a court case involving that child and his parent. On June 12, 2015, the same father went to the police again after an agency supervised visit with his son, reporting his son had bruises on his face and arms. Keep in mind, I said supervised. So yes, the social worker also confirmed the bruising that the brother had. He's 2 years old. He kept repeating, "Mommy is mean," the whole time. The father reported his son is bruised every single visit. Well, mom said that the boy fell in the shower, and Anthony confirmed it. I mean, I'm sure if he didn't, there would be a beating, but please tell me what 2-year-old can stand in the shower solidly and not fall, but they don't show up with bruises all over them. In what world, okay? The other children gave 2 different accounts of the bruising, but the referral was ruled unfounded and closed. Once again, the computer did its job and came back with a high risk of malnutrition and recommended promoting the case. Can you guess? Yeah, that's right. Once again, it was overridden. This time because there was an open case involving the 2-year-old son and the mom. September 18, 2015, the hotline received a call from the vice principal of Anthony's school, Gia Grux. Is it Gru? Gra? I'll put it on the screen. And she was telling them what she'd learned from Anthony. He told her he moved out of his home into his aunt's house because his mom beat him and locked him in his room with no food, water, or no bathroom. She also described a new punishment called the captain's chair. He showed his teacher how to do it. Basically, you stand with your back against the wall flat, and then you squat down to a seated position while keeping contact between the wall and your back. They had to do this for long periods of time, and if you cried or if you fell over, they had to start over. So they're at their aunt's house now. They've been removed from mom. A sheriff deputy, Michael Gallardo, called to report that he had come in contact with the kids. The kids had told him things that made me not want to release them right now. The officer was so concerned that he's like, I don't want to return these kids. Anthony and his next youngest brother and his sister, which was 3, were always the targets. Described beatings with fists and belts, not getting any food at all, being locked in their rooms for hours on end, no bathrooms, and Kareem hanging Anthony's brother by his ankles upside down from the stairs. Apparently, Kareem liked to pick Anthony and his brothers up by their ankles and dangle them over the banister or just drop them on their heads onto the floor repeatedly. And the little sister says, "You don't cry or scream, it'll be worse." Just gross and heartbreaking. When DCFS investigator met with Anthony, he told her, "Heather is my old mom. This is my new house. I am part of the Barron family now. I am never going to see Heather again. She locks us up in our rooms and makes us starving. So she's gonna listen now." I mean, when a child is telling such graphic details, in your position of trust, you listen, right? The counselor's gonna take note. He's ready to just hopefully never see his mom again because she's so damn mean. The investigator instead talks to Barbara Dixon and the 3 other Hathaway Sycamore's counselors providing home-based services. They said they were constantly in the home and the mom does not hit them. They said that the children did not seem frightened or never talked about abuse. Heather was allowed to go and get her children and take them home, where a few days later, each child took back their allegations, probably because they were being beat, but allegedly, we don't know. DCFS decided the aunt and uncle were manipulating the situation. It was considered inconclusive and the situation stabilized. We have one last chance. April 28, 2016, DCFS received a report of domestic violence. The center staffer who was working with the mom, 2 of Anthony's brothers had bruises on their faces. Mom said the boys had been in a fight, but the boys told this credible reporter that Kareem made them fight each other and locked them in their rooms and deprived them of food for a long time. She said one child was starving, ate out of the trash, and Heather, the mom, said that Kareem hadn't even been in the house since the previous September. When the DCFS investigator talked to Anthony and his sister and brother, well, they denied everything. I mean, everything. Anthony and his sister denied that Kareem was even in the house or they even knew him at all. Oh, but wait, the caseworker said she had been monitoring in the open case and said that the kids definitely knew who Kareem was. And she thought he was at the house regularly. Despite the fact that this is the person that is highly trained to recognize the subtle signs of abuse, this judgment, again, was unfounded. Situation stabilized. Yes, if you're wondering, the computer said the children were at high risk of abuse and neglect, and to promote the caseworker overrid it again. This caseworker in DCFS closed the case for the family completely in October of 2016. There were no more watching. Heather was fed up, and then she cut off all ties with her family. The aunts, the uncles, tons of cousins, all of these that loved Anthony and his siblings so much were stopped from all contact. After they called child services, Heather was afraid if she lost her kids, she wouldn't be able to receive her welfare money, so there goes her livelihood. Oh, and that's not my opinion. Sorry, that came directly from her Aunt Maria, but I don't disagree. But you let me know your thoughts. With Heather's attitude, it's no wonder she cut all contact with her family. Anthony told his uncle that if he said hi when he saw him, he would get spanked beside his head. So Anthony was told to ignore them. All that family that loved him, they lived near and saw him from time to time. He had to look away. Can you imagine how hard that must have been for this unsafe little boy? He's living in a brutal situation. His mom and her boyfriend are smacking him, hitting him with a belt, hitting him on his back with a belt, and she makes sure to switch him schools too. So now he's at a new school, and she's not going to give them any background of what's going on in his life. Of course not. Those counselors that were there were useless. Well, they're gone too, so let's just move on. The calls to the hotline stopped. But there is one more call. On June 20th, 2018, Heather Barron called 911 and said her child had fallen and hit his head.
Okay, and who needs our help today? What happened?
My son was
Okay.
with the food and he woke up and he felt like he was sponsored.
Okay, listen, does he have a fever?
No, he doesn't have a fever.
Is he breathing?
He's breathing.
Okay, listen to me. Listen.
When Anthony arrived at the hospital, the doctors just kept saying, "How does this happen?" over and over again. I will tell you that his aunt and uncle were allowed into the ICU room, but only after begging at Heather's feet on the floor and apologizing for calling DCFS on her. His aunt, who was there when he was born,
I was lucky enough to become Anthony's aunt. From the moment he was inside the belly to the moment he came out, he was my baby. I will always remember his first words, the first time crawling, his first steps.
And loved him very much. She had to also watch him die. Anthony died 18 and a half hours later at the age of only 10 years old. He had been put on a ventilator immediately, but it just wasn't enough. The coroner ruled the cause of death by blunt force trauma to the head and brain, also multiple blunt force trauma to his body. He had abrasions and bruises around his face, nose, and forehead, down his sides, back abrasions around his hips, sides, circular marks on his stomach, really bad scarring on his knees, on his back, contusions and scabs on his arms and legs. Even he had wounds on his feet. So now I want to introduce you to Anthony's little sister and brother because he was the oldest. There was the three of them that got it the worst. Him, his sister, and his brother. He sometimes took punishment, beatings, so they didn't have to. They have a voice here. They both appeared before the grand jury in this case. We aren't using their names, just initials, so his little sister D and his little brother R. They said both Kareem and Mom beat him with belts and big buckles, beat him with a vacuum cord with fist, chokehold, slamming his head against the floor, pouring hot sauce on his face and his eyes, locking him in his room for days with no food or water and no bathroom. If he had an accident, D said Kareem would hold their legs up in the air and make them lay down and put their face into where they made this accident. So that's Anthony and R. She explained Anthony's knees, D's and R's too. Kareem would make them kneel in the corner, and if you cried because it hurts, then you would have to kneel on dry rice on the floor. She said Kareem would put his feet against their knees to push it harder into the rice. It hurt, so they would cry, but she said he would not let up until you stopped crying. Anthony was made to kneel on the rice for 8 to 12 hours at a time. She said he would also whip his feet and legs with a belt while he was kneeling. If it hurt, so he would cry, so he had to stay there longer because he cried. After they were done, Dee had to clean up the rice, obviously it had blood in it. Their knees had sores, open wounds from the night before. Dee said for a while Anthony had to stand in the corner from the time he got home from school until 8 p.m. She described the captain's chair for the grand jury and said if they moved or cried, they had to start over, up to an hour at a time. And they always fell, she would say. This got worse. She said Kareem, while hurting them, use wrestling moves on them. Keep in mind, Kareem is a 6 foot tall and over 200 pounds. When he needed more entertainment, I guess, because he is a sick, disgusting man. Complete degenerate. I wonder if this made him feel like a big man, doing wrestling moves on 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. Sick. And for more entertainment, because he's disgusting, he made them fight and hurt each other. This was not optional. And this was not fun wrestling. R said he was forced to wrestle his brother until he hurt him. If R was in trouble, then Dee and Anthony had to beat him up. Or Anthony is in trouble, then Dee and R had to beat him up. Kareem would have us punch him or sock him. This could not end until they hurt each other. Oh, and Mom, Heather, watched. Never stopped this little circus. Most things she started or joined in on. It seems like Kareem brought the extra crazy, the captain's chair, the rice, the making them fight each other. But Heather was beating her children long before with belts and cords, all on her own for years. Kareem went as far as to put an alarm on the boys' bedroom door because one time he caught R sneaking out in the middle of the night looking for food. See, they would withhold food. They said since we were all in trouble, we can't even get real food. His parents would tell him that that's a privilege, so that one banana he might have gotten, not anymore. Sometimes they would give them a plain peanut butter sandwich or peanut butter on a corn tortilla. Kareem would time us for 2 minutes, and if we didn't get it done on time because it was nasty, we would get sriracha or tapatía on it. Tapatía is a brand of hot sauce, if you're not familiar. Dee did testify about Anthony's last days. The prosecutor alleged in the grand jury that Anthony was tortured for 5 days before he died. I'm not sure D or R would see that as a different day, but school had just let out for the summer, so there was no one looking. D said Anthony got hurt a lot of the time, and that one day he woke up one morning, he was acting a little weird. So my mom said that they were gonna go to the hospital, but Anthony said he wanted to go to sleep, so his mom let him sleep. And then when she went to go check on him, he wouldn't wake up. Kareem picked him up from his armpits and dropped him on the floor. He did this about 10 times. She also said the next morning he wouldn't wake up again, so her mom threw some water on his face. But of course, that didn't work either. She would say that her mom said she was going to take him to the hospital. She tried to carry him, and he was stiff like a board. Can you just imagine being that young and talking about this and witnessing this? How brave this little girl is. DNR got up in the front of the grand jury, a bunch of strangers, and answered all the prosecutor's questions and then all the questions the grand jurors had. Their mom and Kareem were not there, but I have absolutely no doubt that if needed, they can face their monsters in court. Right now, Heather, Maxine Barron, and Kareem Ernesto Oliva are being held in the Los Angeles County Jail, and they are awaiting trial. They are charged with first-degree murder with the infliction of torture on a victim and 2 counts of child abuse for DNR. If convicted, they face a maximum sentence of life in prison without parole. Because the current district attorney for Los Angeles has dropped the death penalty in the case, no deals made. It's nothing like that. He just doesn't believe it's prudent to pursue a death penalty case in the state that isn't doing the death sentence right now. They haven't since 2006. He does cite financial reasons, which Anthony's family could care less about. They go to trial on September 26th. 2022, so just coming up in 2 months. It's the same prosecutor as the Gabrielle case. If you've seen the Netflix documentary, the docu-series, then it's the same prosecutor.
Not one time has the DA met with the family members on this case.
John Hatami is the deputy district attorney prosecuting the case. He's condemned LA County DA George Gascon's latest order to no longer seek the death penalty in this case.
And if the DA won't stand up for abused children, all of us need to stand up for abused children.
He says he's now calling out other elected officials as well, challenging them to stand up for Anthony and other child abuse victims by speaking out about the DA's new directives.
Gaskin he doesn't consider our feelings at all.
What I don't see too often is they are going to be tried together, but they're going to have 2 juries. Nothing like wasting people's valuable time, but whatever. But to back up as to why the family doesn't care about the financial side of the death penalty is because they know that Kareem is part of MS-13 and he will be protected.
Putting them on death row minimizes a lot of their comforts that they'll get, and maybe they'll feel a little torture that Anthony got to feel.
You know, he has this brotherhood in prison. Their Uncle David says that if he were in a death penalty prison, he would have less creature comforts, less access to people, aka his gang members. However, over the past 3 years, the Avalos and Barron families have fought so hard for a piece of justice for Anthony. So now I have a final number for you guys, and it's a big one. $32 million. The amount that the families got because of a super lawyer worked hard for them. That is the settlement amount that LA County agreed to pay Anthony Avalos' family. But there's more because this lawyer is not done. There's the number 1, just 1 hurdle left, and that's Hathaway Sycamore's Child and Family Services, because Brian Claypool, the Avalos family attorney, is going after them next. See, in these lawsuits, what happens is full disclosure. So when Victor Avalos, Anthony's dad, joined the suit and sued Los Angeles County and all of the social workers involved, literally every single one of them, is named in the lawsuit. I saw it. So DCFS had to turn over all of its records, which is how we know so much today. But more than that, a civil grand jury was impaneled to look at specifically Gabriel and Anthony's deaths. Every facet of them. They were so similar. They both lived in Antelope Valley, and they both seemed the very same caseworkers. And then at the Hathaway Sycamore, they saw the same therapist. I found out that she wasn't even a licensed therapist. They had moms who hurt them and then had boyfriends that made it worse. They both had multiple times where people in the community tried to do the right thing. They called the hotlines. They tried to help them. Knowing everything about them has helped them come up to a good conclusion about the situation. They outlined a 351-page document full of fundamental and lasting changes that are going to be made. The first one that grabbed my eye: retrain all social workers. Retrain social workers on how to interview a child. I like these guys already. They started at the basics and just kept going, like starting from scratch. It will take a while to implement, but it could help. We know this area needs it. So yes, Gabriel and Anthony, they walk the road together. The only solace I think we can find is that these two boys are heroes. They absolutely saved their siblings. They made changes possible in DCFS for LA County in the form of a large lawsuit. We can't even put a number on how many little lives they could have saved. How many times will a caseworker think twice when working with a family? How many times will the caseworker say, I think I need to remove a child to save them? Anthony and Gabriel, you are the rock stars. I know I probably lost a few of you because the story is so horrible, but let's leave a blue heart for little Anthony. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share so more people can hear Anthony's tragic story, as a reminder that we need to do better for our little ones, or tragic things happen. Thanks to all my channel members who continue to support me. Their names are on the screen. If you would like to become a channel member or a Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in the description box. Well, if you have made it to the end, you guys are rock stars and I love you to death. There are more true crime videos in my Crimey Cases playlist if you'd like to check them out. Stay safe, my loves, and remember, if you see something, say something. Bye.